Hello friends, it's Sunday and today we're not making anything. We are doing a Q&A. I thought, you know what, it's about time you guys got to know a little bit about Del, her career, what she does, and why you should trust her and her recipes. After 20 plus years in this business, I've probably got a few little tricks up my sleeve. So no cooking today, just a quick Q&A. So let's learn about Del. Question 1. What sparked your love of cooking and how did that make you want to become a chef? So I think it probably all started when I was like little. I used to like love eating food. I mean, as you can see here from this picture, here I am staring over the table at probably 2, pretty excited about what I'm going to eat. But I just used to love food, and like I always used to like watch TV, and like Floyd or Rick Stein would be on the telly and I'd just be absolutely glued to it. I just always wanted to know what they were cooking, what they were making. And I was just really intrigued, and I just think I always enjoyed eating, just really enjoyed eating. I was a classic little fat kid that was just into food, didn't really care what it was. I was just interested in how it tasted. But yeah, and I think that was probably, I don't know, the kind of beginning of how I wanted to become a chef really, because it got to like 16, I was finishing school and wasn't particularly academic. I'm dyslexic, so learning was pretty difficult. I never was great at it. I was practical with my hands, and that is what I just really enjoyed, and I seem to be able to learn that way quite easily. So I thought, oh, what can I do? And again, I was super lucky as a kid because we always used to go on ski holidays, and basically me becoming a chef stemmed from going on them holidays. And not that we ever really stayed in them, but knowing that there was kind of this chalet girl lifestyle out there. And again, I think my mum and dad said to me, hey, why don't you learn how to cook? And then you can go and do that. And I just thought, yes, that's the one. I don't want to be at school. I don't really want to learn here. I'm not very good at it. So that's what I did. I left school at 16 and went to catering school. And as they say, the rest is history. And here I am 20 plus years later, teaching you guys how to cook. Why did you want to work in that certain restaurant? So I'd done my training in London. I'd gone to Leith School of Food and Wine, very lucky to have gone there. But the old Prue Leith herself called me into her office one day and said, there's this opportunity to go and work for someone. They're ex-students from here. They want someone who's Leith trained, and we think that you'd be great for the job. So there I was, I'd done 3 months in a catering school and I left, and I honestly think it was probably the greatest move because I learned so many skills in the kitchen. And this lady that I first went and worked for, it was down in Devon, it was this tiny little restaurant, but they really trusted me, and I learned so much working there on like how to run things and how to operate and how to be efficient with my time. It was really quite crazy. I was only like not even quite 17 years old, and I was already sort of in this weird position of like being their second in command to learning the things about the restaurant. But then I had to leave Devon and I came back to London and I was like, right, what am I going to do? And it was weird because I don't think I was quite ready to go on that, chalet girl lifestyle, that kind of chef chalet lifestyle yet. And I think I just wanted to learn a bit more. And so at that time, Gordon Ramsay, he was becoming massive on television. He'd kind of taken over from Rick Stein really, and was becoming this big sort of personality on TV. And I thought, you know what? I think maybe this is the guy I want to go and work for. I sent off God knows how many letters, because it was letters then, we didn't have emails. I mean, God, it makes me sound ancient. But I sent off letters to these people, and one of them that got back to me was Hospital Road. That was Gordon Ramsay's 3-star Michelin restaurant. And I went there and did a stage, and it was an eye-opener, that's for sure. 17 years old, in this like crazy tiny kitchen. Everyone saying "we chef." I mean, it was like next level. I'd never seen anything like it apart from on the TV. And it was weird because I thought, I don't know if this is for me. But then at the end of my stage that day, they said to me, well, there's actually a lady who's working for Gordon and she's opening a restaurant and needs staff, and maybe that might be somewhere you want to go. So off I went. And that's that was the place where I thought, you know, this is where I want to, maybe I do want to do this. I went to Angela Hartnett at the Connell. She opened it, I think, in like 2003, and I started working there 2 months after they'd been open, and I worked there for a whole year, and in that year she gained a Michelin star, and it really was like the beginning of my career on like learning precision and learning like how to make these incredible things, and it was really quite something spectacular. I learned so much there, and also what I quickly then learned was being a woman in the kitchen is friggin' hard. Bearing in mind, this, like I said, this is like 20 years ago. There was not many women represented in the kitchen, and working under Angela Hartnett really changed my perception into what maybe women could achieve. Quite crazy, really, to think that that is how it went. The third question, what's one of the most challenging moments you've had in your career? Well, as I briefly touched on there, you know, working for Angela Hartnett, being a woman in the kitchen, I think that was the running theme for the majority of me working in London for nearly the 10 years that I did, was me being a woman in the kitchen. That was the hardest thing to overcome, because men didn't want to listen to me. And also, you know, not because I was a woman, I think probably because I was young. And I seem to have acquired this confidence from Angela, seeing her fucking stick it to the men, you know, and just being like, I can do this. And it really put a fire in my belly into being like, you know what, so can I. And I left there. I'd worked there for a year working for Angela, and I went to something completely different. I went to work at the Ivy, where, you know, it obviously is not a Michelin star, but there it's all about volume. And that was probably challenging in the way that it was incredibly busy. So that was probably the most challenging thing. But then also the fact that I was a girl doing it. Again, I think I was just extremely lucky in the way that I had so far been taught in my, you know, year and a half working in kitchens by just some incredible women. And may I say as well, that first ever job that I had down in Devon, Holly, she was a woman as well. And Prue, she had been a woman. It was like all these women had like given me the power to carry on and do it in another time, like in another place where I didn't feel like I was not able to do it. I mean, it was just completely nuts. So I was working at the Ivy. You know, the brigade is 25 strong in the kitchen and like 10 in the pastry. It's an absolute behemoth of a restaurant. And it's just absolutely phenomenal, because I'd been working there only a few days, and one of the sous chefs, Richard, he said to me, you know, I've been working on the larder, which is, you know, they were like, oh, here comes a girl, let's just put her on the starters and sort of see what she does, you know. And this guy, he said to me, he was like, I think you could probably, you know, you're pretty good at this, so let's see what you can do. And on day 4 of working in this frigging crazy restaurant where we would do 300 covers a night for dinner, I was put on the larder pass, in charge of organising plates of food going to the restaurant. It was one of the most nerve-wracking things I've ever done in my life. I was absolutely shitting bricks, but it was incredible because I, again, just like received this incredible amount of like confidence from doing it, because I was so dedicated to like making sure that I did it right. And I think that probably also comes a little bit maybe from like my dyslexia, ADHD kind of stuff, that like I always want it to be like, I'm so focused on making sure that that thing that I'm doing is right, that I just absolutely killed it. And I worked at the Ivy for 2.5 years, and I really feel like I overcame the fact that I was a woman in that kitchen, because by the time I left, I was running the sauce section, the busiest section in the kitchen, and I think I had respect of nearly all the boys that worked there, because they were like, Del will fucking kick your ass if you don't get in line and get your fucking work done. But that was definitely probably one of the hardest things to overcome, being a woman in the kitchen. And you know what, probably still to this day, maybe not for me, but definitely women in the kitchen. It's a crazy dynamic, you know, whereas you think in the 50s, where should the housewife be? Cooking food in the kitchen, but turn it around to a professional kitchen and no man really wants to listen to you. So, yeah, I mean, it's crazy. How would I describe my cooking style? Oh, these days I want it to be simple, tasty and delicious, which is mostly what I'm here for you guys. I mean, you know, I could show you all them skills of it being precision, but I know that that's not necessarily what everyone wants to learn about, and I just like love making food that is absolutely like banging, delicious, tasty, full of flavour, just all the things that you love, with kind of as little effort as you really. And kind of with that effort being minimal, you know, it doesn't have to be hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of prep. You can achieve really great things in small amounts of time. And I think that's definitely where my culinary, you know, style has ended up. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still have to do them. I still do them really fancy things when I work on private jobs and stuff like that. But for the most part, culinary style, definitely bang for buck. And hey, if it can be the smallest time effort, perfect. In your opinion, what makes a great chef beyond the technical skills that you may or may not have? And what is the one skill that you think every chef should master? I think the greatest skill to have as a chef is your want for learning, because not a day goes by, even now, where sometimes I don't learn something new, whether it be like a recipe from another country that I've never heard of. I mean, that is what the internet is absolutely incredible for these days, is you have this breadth of knowledge that you can tap into. But, you know, a thirst for learning is, I think, what makes a chef better at their job past being technically good at it, you know, whether that be knife skills or, you know, how to cook something. If you don't love what you're doing, it's going to come across in every single thing that you make, because like you need to have the passion and the want to do this job, because it's very taxing when you work in restaurants. It's hard when you work for private clients that are awkward. It's hard when you stand up for 16 hours a day. Like, it's not an easy job, and to get the most out of it, you have to truly love it. And I think, you know, that kind of comes down to the one skill that you should master is, oh, actually no, let me, I'm going to take that back. The one skill you should master is seasoning, because without seasoning, food can be rubbish. You could have made the best meal ever, but if it's got no salt in it, it might not taste of anything. So maybe seasoning is the one thing that you truly have to master, but beyond technical skills, it has to be love. I mean, God, that sounds so corny, but really it is. What can't I live without in the kitchen? Oh, I mean, this is the hardest question probably of all these questions. I mean, apart from your knives, because they're imperative. I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm going to say salt. I mean, that would be the ingredient I can't live without. And maybe the thing that I couldn't live without, you know what, probably the one piece of equipment that I absolutely love and probably couldn't live without, and it's tied, you know, for an at-home cook, is probably the air fryer, because we all know that Dale loves an air fryer, or the grater, the mini grater, the microplane. That is such a great piece of equipment, and it's so versatile for so many things. Yeah, you know what, we'll go with that. We'll go with the microplane. In the 2 or more decades that you've been in the kitchen, what's the most memorable meal I've eaten? Jesus Christ. God. I mean, you know, there's too many. I'll name my top 3. There we go. I'll go for top 3. Oh, Jesus, even top 3 is hard. No, we'll do top 3. Do you know what? Nearly all of them revolve around people, and more people, places. It's not necessarily about the food, it's more about the things that you experience with them people. For my 21st birthday, my mum took me, my brother and his now wife to the Fat Duck, Heston Blumenthal's restaurant. It's a 3 Michelin star restaurant, and it was my 21st, and I, you know, was still like doing them hard grafting hours in London, and it was just a real immersive treat into an incredible way of eating. And what was really special about it is I was like sat there and I was like analysing plates and being like, yeah, this is stuff that I can do, like that's pretty cool. You know, that was a really like awesome experience, a really cool thing to do. You know, another top meal, probably like any Christmas day when I used to live in the Swiss Alps. Like, me and my flatmates, we used to just, Christmas Day was savage because you'd all be at work. Essentially, nearly all of you would be at work all day long until about 10 o'clock at night, but you'd all have these weird intermittent breaks, and there'd always be someone who was in the house, and what we would do is just kind of this rolling lunch. And it essentially would start at like 10:30, and people would come round and maybe have a glass of Bucks Fizz, and you know, something was already on the table. We'd say that if anyone could make lunch, we'd do it at a certain time. But if you couldn't make it, you could come in and grab a plate of food and take it off and go wherever it was you needed to go to your job and all them kind of things. And I tell you what, they are just like some of the greatest food memories, because everyone used to just make, even thinking about it, it really does evoke emotion, because maybe it necessarily wasn't about like just the food, but it would also be like about friends sharing food. And you know, some of my greatest mates would be there, and they're always good times. And then, you know, like the other thing, and then like, okay, number 3 is like probably just them like stupid meals that you have with like, I don't know, like with Brownie, my partner. I mean, we literally, we live in like a really small town in New Zealand, and the amount of times that we sit and have our dinner and say, do you know what, we're probably having the best meal in town at the moment, and I would think it's probably not an understatement. Like, I can't tell you any of my favourite ones. You know, they're all my favourite ones. We have top 10s, that's for sure, but you know, them kind of meals, they're the things that are the most important, and they're the ones that really stick out. So it may not be a certain thing or a certain meal, but it certainly revolves around people and good times. What's the one best piece of advice I've ever received from another chef? Do you know what? I don't know. Like, I remember once someone saying to me, you know, you put your mind to it, you can do absolutely anything you want. And testament to that, because a lad that I used to work with, Dan, he has just gone on to gain a Michelin star at his restaurant in Tokyo, and honestly, it's absolutely friggin' mind-blowing. And I think it's, you know, true of anything, true of this, true of, you know, being an educator, working, you know, making videos. Like, it's all stuff that I've never ever done before, and you know, you just got to stick with it, and you learn more skills along the way. So I think it's like anything, you know, just stick with it and great things will come. What's the one thing that I hope that you, the audience, get out of me doing this and teaching you guys how to cook? I just hope that you can all learn something from it, really, and take away the fact that you don't necessarily always have to stick to a recipe. Sometimes it is just what you've got in the cupboard or what you've got in the fridge. But I just kind of want to be able to impart that, yes, okay, I mean, I've got 20 years experience, but just as long as you're passionate about what you're doing and what you're making, anyone can create a really delicious meal. And I want to be able to give you them skills so that you can also just make absolutely banging stuff. I mean, yeah, that's what I really want you guys to get out of this. I want you to learn and, you know, maybe realize that actually it isn't as difficult as like a recipe may seem. I'm, like I said, dyslexic, and so for reading, I'm not very good at reading a recipe. I'd much prefer to watch a visual, which is probably why I used to like watching the things on TV, because it was visual reference for me and I just felt like I understood it a lot more. And so I hope that with what I'm doing, you know, maybe there's some people out there like me that find visuals just much easier, and it's a much better way for them to learn. So that's what I hope comes of it. And the last question is, what are the 3 top places I've been with my career as a chef? Okay, at least I get 3 with this one, which is good. So, you know, being a private chef, being a chef working in restaurants, you end up doing a lot of things, you end up working in a lot of places, you end up going to loads of incredible places around the world. I mean, I currently live in New Zealand, and so I was super lucky to end up going to Fiordland, which is right down the bottom of New Zealand. It's super remote. We didn't even see one other boat. It is literally in the middle of nowhere, only accessible by helicopter, and I got to go and cook down there. I mean, seriously, it's absolutely mind-blowing, that place. And here's a few clips of kind of the absolute beauty of it. I mean, it's absolutely sensational. It really is absolutely mind-blowing that as a chef, I got to go and do that, you know. That is one thing about this profession, it can take you absolutely anywhere. And another place that it took me was to Glastonbury Festival. A good friend of mine, her company run all the catering for Greenpeace, and so I've been lucky enough to go there a couple of years and cook in a field for 300 people breakfast, lunch and dinner. I mean, not that I was doing all 300 people breakfast, lunch and dinner, but you know, all of these things are great because I've learned all these skills along the way. You know, there, cooking at Glastonbury, cooking for all them people, it's like when I used to cook at the Ivy. You know, it's like this crazy intense time, but you get to produce food for all these people and serve them up, and it's just absolutely nuts. And you know what's amazing about working at Glastonbury is you get to go and enjoy all the music, because there is nothing more that I love than music, and so that's a really friggin' special treat, like to be able to go there and work on site and just really be able to take it all in. And the third place would have to be South Africa. I used to work for a family, like private chefing. I was their private chef for, oh God, over sort of 2.5 years, and I was lucky enough to go to their home in South Africa. And while I was there, I couldn't have missed the chance of going there and not going to do some amazing things. So, you know, I was lucky enough to go on a safari and like see some of these animals. And you know, not only that, but also on their land. I mean, I saw this guy just poking his head out of the trees. I mean, it was amazing. I was there for a month and just looked after them. You know, I'm always endlessly grateful for them kind of opportunities, and it certainly is something that chefing can do and take you around the world. You know, if any of you have got any questions about chefing, about how I got into, you know, anything that revolves around all the things that we've answered today, you can ask me a question, leave it in the comments section down below, and I'll get back to you. And I just really hope that you've learnt some interesting things about me and my journey, and like I said, maybe why you can trust me in the recipes that I share with you. Yeah, so until next time, guys, it's been wonderful. I really appreciate all of you, and yeah, I'll speak to you all soon. But I promise you next time we're going to have a recipe. So I'll see you later. Bye.